Hi, my name is Annemarie Lesage from HEC Montreal, when design novices and LEGO meet. Our study looks at how to get non-designers fully engaged in divergent thinking during early HCI ideation. To sketch or not to sketch when it comes to design thinking with non-designer? That's the question, isn't it? Well, literature tells us that sketching is the best way to link not yet fully formed mental images to visual representation through continuous interaction. And it's a good way because it's quick to sketch. And the fact that it's imprecise is actually a good thing. It allows the team to mature idea in a slow enough, quick enough time so they could be explored away from the obvious. But relying on sketching might not be the best strategy, considering that most design novices are reluctant to draw, and they are often the dominant group in design thinking sessions. So what do? Do we force them? Well, of course not. Most of us will just get sticky notes out. Well, yeah, okay, so we use a lot of sticky notes. And most of the time, simply to jot a word down. A tool is a cognitive artifact that responds to needs of specific process and users. It would be surprising that for all our creative processes, there would be one single answer. So we are back to the post-it or sketch-it question. Well, actually, this is touching on a bigger issue, which is how do we get the best results out of design thinking with non-designers? Well, let's briefly look at what's at play here. When we talk about design thinking, we are referring to an iterative, human-centered approach to innovation. And to reap innovation, design thinking must involve stakeholders from all over the organization. Some will be designers, while most will be non-designers or design novices. And this us with them, designers with non-designers, is actually central to design thinking. Furthermore, to innovate, the team must fully engage in cycles of divergent and convergent thinking. Innovation will happen if the divergent phase delivers a multitude of alternative solutions, and the convergent phase creatively hones down on a single best solution. However, design novices who are not trained into the divergent thinking process will tend to fall back on what they know best, which is often to go right back to convergent thinking, thus sidestepping divergent thinking. Although non-designers are very much desired and central in design thinking, if the divergent phase is compromised because novices do not fully understand or trust the divergent process and shy away from tools that support a slow maturing of new idea, then design thinking may fall short of delivering truly innovative solutions. Trust in the process will be gained if the tools provided deliver the goods. Well, so we considered cards, clay, Playmobil, pictures, and chose to test Lego blocks because they are abstract and figurative, constructive, and ready-made. And because they are ready-made, assembling them does not require any particular skill compared to sketching. Our research question for this study was, how does the use of Lego compare to that of pen and paper during the collaborative conceptual ideation phase, which is the very beginning of the ideation? Specifically, we tested two hypotheses, one about the performance of the tool, so non-designers using Lego would deliver interface proposals showing greater divergent thinking, and the other about the preparation to ideation. We hypothesized that teams experiencing a Lego-focused warm-up would deliver Lego interfaces showing greater divergent thinking. How we did this. We had 44 non-designers randomly teamed into 22 dyads. The participants' average age was 26 and a half. They were evenly split between men and women, and they were recruited from HEC alums. we ran a between subjects comparative lab experiment where each team worked with Lego for one ideation and pen and paper for the other, in alternating order from one team to the next. In the first ideation, they had to come up with an interface for a healthcare patient, and in the second, for a pharmacist. They were presented with a large set of Legos and Duplos of abstract and figurative pieces. The pen and paper set had many large sheets of paper, felt tips, and sticky notes of different sizes and colors. The tool set and the two personas were presented to them through 60-second videos. This way, every team received the exact same instructions. So here, briefly, the warm-up exercises were either to build a Lego house together or team up for a marshmallow challenge. They had 14 minutes of ideation time, after which they had to explain every element of their solution. They did this for 2 rounds, varying tools and personas, and in the final interview they were asked to compare the 2 experiences. Divergent thinking was assessed through Torrance's framework using 4 indicators: fluency for the number of ideas, flexibility for the breadth of ideas or number of categories, elaboration for the amount of detail associated with an idea, and, of course, originality. For originality, we deferred to Guilford's definition, which breaks it down into 3 qualities: uncommon, remote, clever. Fluency, flexibility, and elaboration were measured, counted, compared, and heavily discussed by 2 experts until they agreed. Originality was assessed by subjective scoring. We asked 2 UX designers to score every single interface according to a complex grid. Once their scoring was done, we averaged them to get what we called their originality score. To assess all of these, the experts and judges relied on pictures of the interface proposal and on the video and verbatim of their explanations. But before assessing originality, the 2 UX designers felt they needed to be more specific about how to unmistakably recognize the 3 qualities. They really brought a UX lens to this exercise. For uncommonness, they looked at unique ways to respond to the persona's needs, putting extra weight on pertinence. For example, Persona 1 had asked specifically for a calendar, so every team put a calendar in. The calendar concept was not automatically scored low for being so common. It was scored according to how well or how creatively it was exploited to really respond to Persona 1's needs. For remoteness, they look for verbal and visual abstraction. How far did they stray away from conventional UI layout, which was actually too early to apply at that point? For cleverness, they looked for signs showing insight, like the use of a less obvious metaphor that would capture the heart of the persona's needs. Cleverness is a quality that seems to augment the power of the first 2 indicators. This is how we counted ideas, categories, and elements. This detail shows 1 idea: remote medical consultation through hologram. 1 category, because there was only 1 idea here, and 5 elements elaborating it. This pen and paper detail had 6 ideas, the 6 features, 4 categories, so the basic info, language, patient file stuff, and the calendar, and 6 elements, 3 elaborating the basic info and 3 elaborating the calendar. A large number of ideas, categories, and elements were accounted for, argued upon throughout the 44 interfaces. Okay, results. On a qualitative level, we observed that pen and paper interfaces consisted of a mixture between features list and early information architecture. With the Lego proposal, we observed that the storytelling automatically included the persona right at the center of the proposal. Features were expressed through what they did to the persona. The quantitative results will be seen really briefly and discussed later. So Hypothesis 1 was supported. When compared, Lego delivered a significantly higher number of elements than pen and paper, thus delivering more divergent thinking, and I'll come back to that. Seeing this first result, we did a post hoc analysis to try to understand how the indicators actually interacted with each other. So for each tool, we looked at the most performant interfaces, those that score median and up, to see if there was some correlations between indicators. With pen and paper, the only correlation we found was that interfaces with higher counts of idea also had a higher count of categories. With Lego interfaces, a higher count of elements correlated with a higher count of ideas, categories, and originality score. As for Hypotheses 2, well, it was not supported. The Lego interfaces done after a Lego warm-up were no different than those who had had a regular warm-up. We identified 2 takeaways for this study. One is methodological, and so it was for an improved tool to assess originality in HCI interfaces by grounding Guilford's indicator in a user-centered perspective. So here, uncommonness is understood as uniquely pertinent for users. Remoteness implies moving away from the conventional UI to explore the solution space. Cleverness is actually sparked by insight. Cleverness and insight can be compounded with the other two, adding an element of surprise, delight, or humor to a proposed concept. But the main takeaway of this study relates to our first hypothesis. Non-designers using Lego come up with interface proposals showing greater divergent thinking than with words on paper because Lego delivers greater elaboration. You're probably thinking, wow, elaboration, really? Well, actually, looking at the results, the verbatim and the measured results, we found that Lego elements actually change what happens to idea. They make idea transmission richer. Once an idea has taken shape in this narrative media, it offers more grounds to rebound from, to react to. It's as if Lego amps up, turns up the volume on the creativity by giving them more to bounce from as they explore. And remember, we measured this. With higher count of element, we measured significantly higher count of ideas, category, originality, which was not the case with paper. Once they had more elements from which to bounce off, then they got more original ideas. In other words, they played along, involved more elements, and then divergent thinking set in, taking them down unexpected paths. But having more elements has another benefit for design. It hints at the complexity of the potential interaction. Proposing a hologram medical consultation, and this was done in pre-pandemic days, well, may have seemed completely unrealistic, but looking at how they put it together suggests a couple of things. First, the way the lower figurine is encased in a specific space hints at either a need for privacy, or it may be expressing a sense of heavy technology closer to that of an MRI than a Zoom call, but hey. In either case, it may inform the future interface by revealing the participant's mental model, which is great when working with non-designer because they are often more candid, more revealing. So by comparison, here they seem to use words to remember their ideas, like a list. Lego pushed their ideas further because they had to think them through metaphors, with the results that Lego objects appear to talk back to them. For example, in this case, this team was looking for a way to illustrate the calendar. They came across the Lego fishing net, which made them think about network, about using the calendar as a hub for all types of schedule, appointments, even taking medicine. It ended up organizing the whole proposal. So these metaphor holds many levels of latent meanings, keeping the solution space open, thus fostering a slow maturing of ideas. So the strength of Lego blocks is having non-designer work through metaphors, because some of these metaphors talk back to their authors. Some turns into guiding principle for the project, while most reveal participants' mental model. By relying on storytelling, they keep non-designer user-centered. They keep them thinking about the whole experience. So going back to the first question, to sketch or not to sketch?
Well, to sketch and to play, as long as the tool you use helps you elaborate, enrich, and wildly explore new ideas, keeping the divergent phase divergent. Thank you.